Who are you and what are you doing in Central City?
He's just like the others. No language skills, just noise.
Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 6. So we are now back up and running with The Flash as we had Season 6 kick off a couple of days back with the Into the Void episode where, you know, of course we got the fallout from the end of last season. That of course including Nora's death, or just, being erased from existence, Cisco's choice to get rid of his powers, and of course the follow-up to the newspaper change, or the date change, where later in the episode we found out that Barry is now destined and set to die on the 10th of December 2019, which is of course now, I think from when this video will go up, exactly 2 months away. So yeah, that will be a big thing going forward up until Crisis, and it will be very interesting to see how Barry goes about just doing everything, as well specifically what we get to see next episode, where, from what like the promo or trailer teasers, Barry will be going to the day after he is supposed to disappear, so that's the 11th of December 2019. But one of the big, whoa moments in the first episode for Season 6 that had a lot of people talking, and it was actually one of the first things we got to see go down, was the chase between Barry and Godspeed. Now, at first you think, wow, that's pretty random, and we get Cisco explaining that he is supposed to be from the future, which, of course, we already knew thanks to last season. But when Barry captures Godspeed and removes his mask, we see that it isn't August Hart, who we met last season. It's just a random dude, but then this random Godspeed dude just lets out a loud screech-like sound, like some sort of weird extraterrestrial alien being, and then we get to learn that this is actually the fourth Godspeed to show up and just to not speak English, just basically do the same thing, just make sounds like that one did. Now this Godspeed then went to Iron Heights to join the other three Godspeeds that came before, but this has led to a lot of talk around what the hell is going on here with Godspeed? Is this something that will be brought back up later in the season? Or is this just like a little random little meme or something? What's going on here? Well, that's exactly what we are going to be going over in today's video. We're going to be going over a few different options and theories out there online, some that I just put into the video as well. And finally, the one that I feel could be the most likely out of all the options will be the last one, because I think there's actual sort of, not evidence, but I think it lines up with what could happen later in the season, if that makes sense. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to leave all of your various opinions on the theories and options in the comment section down below, as well as any other ones you might have that I don't list. There's only a handful here. I can't list every single one, no matter how obvious or obscure they are. But yeah, leave all of those opinions and maybe other options in the comments section down below. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, why not drop a like in the video to show your support. But let's go over I guess it's 5 different theories I've listed here. Some will be mixed with others because they just work when they're put together, even though they're different. So I'm just pointing that out. But yeah, to start off, the first one is that the Godspeed that we saw at the beginning of episode 1 was actually a clone of the original Godspeed from the future, who then came back in time to, just cause chaos. Now, this does make sense when you just say Godspeed clone, as in the comics, as in DC Comics, Godspeed can do this. Godspeed is able to clone himself, and but in doing so, he splits his power levels, so he's able to clone himself, and this person can go and do stuff they can, as if they're a real thing, not like a mirage or something like that. But half of the power goes. So half goes to that clone and the other half stays with him. And when that clone comes back and reconnects with him, they merge back together and he gets his full power back. Now, we did hear throughout the episode, as I mentioned earlier, that this wasn't the first Godspeed to just show up, back in present day. It was actually the fourth Godspeed to show up, with the other 3 already being locked away in Iron Heights. So with this, it's just okay, so he split off, one goes away, doesn't come back, then he splits off again, another one goes off and doesn't come back. It just keeps rinsing and repeating. So, he'd get pretty weak. Now, some have skewed this off into a different theory that possibly one of the Godspeed clones could then go on to become the villain that has already been referenced in the past, or well, technically the future, I guess, but in the past in regards to previous seasons, that of course being Red Death. Now, there isn't really that big of a reason behind people saying this. You could really make one, as I've in the past, in regards to connecting Godspeed and Red Death, but online most people aren't really making the greatest case for this to become a reality. But due to these Godspeeds not speaking properly, they would be pretty much silent and deadly villains, which is actually pretty damn scary and just unsettling if you think about it. But the biggest issue with just the clone theory in general is, as I said, that Godspeed can clone himself, but cloning yourself 4 times, it's splitting off your power that many times, you would get pretty damn weak after that. But also, one thing that was pretty damn clear and made pretty damn clear by the show when the Flash took off Godspeed's mask in episode 1, when he took him down. That wasn't August Hart. It didn't look like him. We met August Hart last season. That person didn't look like him at all. So he couldn't be a clone. You're not just cloning the suit, you're cloning the actual person. So under the suit should be a clone of August Hart. So that would be the biggest thing going against this theory. However, it would be pretty interesting to see what the other Godspeeds that are locked away in Nine Heights look like. Do they look exactly like that dude, or are they just random people completely? Now, the next theory is a pretty interesting one and actually connects to Crisis on Infinite Earths. The last one we go over in this video will actually also connect to Crisis, but this one specifically has to do with like all of the 4 Godspeeds that we have had come back to 2019 in Central City. And this is a pretty interesting one some people were bringing up, and that was that these different versions of Godspeed are actually all from different Earths in the multiverse and are being brought into Earth 1 for some reason. Obviously, due to it just being a theory with not much backing or, I guess, substance to it, there isn't really more to what they would be doing here or what they would be here for. What it seems that most people who like this series seem to think is that when Crisis does roll around and the effects of it possibly take place, such as like the merging of Earths and the creation of a possible new reality completely, that these 4 Godspeeds and possibly more versions that could appear throughout the season could merge together post-Crisis and maybe become the new Godspeed for Earth 1. And he would lead into the back half and maybe become the big bad for the back half of the season, or maybe even next season. The biggest thing that goes against this is, of course, the fact that, well, they aren't speaking English. They are just making those random noises, which some people have brought up could be the Speed Force language, which could be something pretty interesting. But yeah, the fact that they aren't making, or just making any sort of sense, or just makes it a bit of a stretch. I don't know, if they were normal, fair enough, but they're just not normal. Even if they are from different Earths in the multiverse, they should still be speaking some sort of language, not just screaming at us. Now, next up, this theory once again lines up with the comics and would make sense for the most part from what we saw go down in episode 1 of this season the other day, and that is that the various Godspeeds that have been showing up in Central City over the past, 4 months or so, I guess, since the end of last season, are various people from the future that have actually been given speed from Godspeed, which is a thing in the comics, similar to the whole cloning thing. So you can take speed, but you can also give speed. Now, this would be actually, give speed. Is that a good name for a speedster? Hey, my name's Give Speed. No, that's terrible. Let's move on. Now, this would be a pretty interesting seed, I guess, to be planted if Godspeed were to show up later in the season, or just in a later season. Maybe he is sending these random versions back to, I don't know, test the Flash and everything back in 2019, just test the waters and see how tough it would be to come back here. But the couple of things that don't really make sense with this are, firstly, and this is probably a minor issue, but how would they all have the Godspeed suit? I mean, in the comics, the suit materializes on Godspeed from memory, but it clearly on the show is just a normal suit. A cool looking suit, don't get me wrong, but it isn't a suit generated by powers. And also, the fact that these Godspeeds coming back don't really speak at all, they just make those, like, as I said, screeching like sounds. It's a big indicator that these aren't normal beings. Something dodgy is going on here, and that will be the focus of the last, and I think the coolest sounding theory out of them all. And the last option or theory to go over would be directly connected to the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths and what was actually teased in the further events that were added in the newspaper from 2049 that Nora Allen showed us last season. So in that newspaper article from 2049, where it talks about the Flash, was it 2049? 2049, yeah, where it talks about the Flash still being missing even after 25 years and all that. They mentioned that Reverse Flash, during those 2024 events, was apparently seen by someone that day leading an army of shadow demons. So what if what we saw Barry take down in episode 1 and what he had taken down the other times beforehand wasn't actually, I guess like a clone of Godspeed or just Godspeed in general, but was actually a shadow demon. Now in the comics, the shadow demons were the silent assassins of the Anti-Monitor and were sent to defend various Earths, well not defend various Earths, but what the Anti-Monitor had planted on various Earths across the multiverse during the Crisis event. Now they fought against the army of the Monitor, so the good guys that we will see brought together throughout the event, which will include some bad guys as well. Now, are we saying that this army of shadow demons will all be Godspeed in Crisis? So it's going to be Reverse Flash there with just like 27 million Godspeeds behind him? No. But at the moment, they might be taking the form of Godspeed, possibly testing out Barry. Cisco does mention that he is getting faster in relation to Godspeed, but it is hard to tell whether he is talking about that individual Godspeed that showed up, or if this one is faster than the last one that showed up. Either way, that noise that the person in the Godspeed suit makes is otherworldly, it's not human, it's just not normal. So if it were to be revealed that the Godspeeds we have had show up in Central City were that of shadow demons in disguise, I would not be surprised in the slightest. Sure, this would most likely annoy those that want Godspeed to perhaps be the back half villain, but if the people on the show are still set on Godspeed being a villain that is set in the future, in 2049 or around that era, then this could potentially be a pretty cool way to have him connected to Crisis in some way, whether it is the legitimate Godspeed or not. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on what we went over. What theory do you think sounds the most likely? Which one sounds completely stupid? And which, just any criticism you want to give, let me know in the comments section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.